Kane is going to go for it. Has he beaten Joan? Oh, I don't believe that!
This is what the best strikers in the world look like. Kylian Mbappe.
Rodrigo consigue meter para que Müller deje Mbappé gol.
Erling Haaland.
Turkey's header, Haaland's on his way. Haaland is on the charge, and Haaland scores.
Victor Osimhen.
Osimhen! First kick in the ball, it's a goal.
That's the standard. Explosive, direct, ruthless. That's how elite strikers are supposed to play. But then there's Harry Kane. He drops into spaces most strikers never touch.
And Kane is going to go for it. Has he beaten Joan?
He dictates tempo like a midfielder.
Kane, in the majority, Heidenheim did what they could. Oh, Harry Kane, what a pass here for Choupo-Moting.
He creates chances like a number 10.
The former Bayern defender, Niklas Süle. Harry Kane striking the ball through. Musiala.
And somehow, he's still the one finishing the move. 50 goals in a single season, 32 in the league, 12 in the Champions League. Not just scoring, dominating. But that's where the misunderstanding begins. Because when you watch Kane, you think you're watching a striker, but you're not. You're watching the system, the creator, the reference point, and the finisher, all in one player. Everyone thinks they understand Harry Kane, but they're only seeing half of the picture. This is exactly why this version of Harry Kane isn't just competing with the best strikers in Europe. He might be the most complete player in that entire conversation.
Look, the lazy take on Harry Kane has always been the same. He's a product of the system. The goals come easy when Bayern are running riot, when the attack is this dominant, when the whole machine is built to create. And fine, there's something to that. Bayern have been absolutely monstrous this season. They wrapped up the Bundesliga title on the 19th of April, had already put 109 league goals past people in 30 games, and under Vincent Kompany, they're scoring at 3.2 goals per Bundesliga game across his first 64 matches in charge. But here's why that argument collapses under its own weight. When a team creates that much, you still need someone to actually do something with it. Plenty of forwards play in dominant teams, very few are doing what Kane is doing. He's on 32 Bundesliga goals after 30 match days, and Bayern's own numbers have him at 51 goals across all competitions this season, the best of his career. So, the system striker line, let's put it to bed. Go look at the rest of Europe's headline forwards.
Mbappe, Real Madrid, the best attack in Spain, has 23 league goals. Haaland has 22 in the Premier League. Kane has 32 in the Bundesliga. Before you've even got to style, link play, build-up, any of that, he's already won the most basic argument a striker can make, the production argument. And then there's Europe. Kane has 12 Champions League goals this season, the most he's ever managed in a single campaign, and, according to UEFA, the highest total an English player has ever recorded in one proper edition of the tournament. Only Mbappe is ahead of him on 15. Haaland is on 8, Osimhen is on 7, Lewandowski, still at it, bless him, on 4. So when people talk about Kane like he's operating a tier below the truly feared forwards on this continent, the numbers just don't back it up. In Europe, he's right there or ahead. The gap between his reputation and the evidence is glaring. And this isn't a one-season spike either. Kane won the 2023-24 European Golden Shoe with 36 Bundesliga goals, his debut season at Bayern, finishing above Mbappe and Haaland. Now he's in another title-winning year, 32 league goals already, and 4 games still to play when Bayern clinched it. The pattern has already held up at the very highest level. This season is confirmation, not coincidence. But here's where it gets genuinely interesting, because Kane's game looks nothing like the others in this conversation. Mbappe is still the clearest space attacker of the group. 23 league goals, 15 in the Champions League, elite pace, and a game built on punishing you the moment space opens up. He sees the gap, he's gone, end of story. Haaland is something else entirely. Goals, XG, shots, brutally concentrated. He lives in and around the box, attacks crosses, arrives on cutbacks, pins centre-backs. His passing accuracy in the Champions League is 67.7%, and he's completed just 56 passes in the competition all season. That's not a criticism, that's his job, and he does it better than almost anyone alive. Osimhen is cut from similar cloth. 41 attempts in 10 Champions League matches, pace over 36 km per hour, 65.6% passing accuracy. A striker built to attack space, pressure the last line, and make life genuinely unpleasant for defenders.
Kane breaks the pattern. He has 12 Champions League goals from 40 attempts. Fine, right in the conversation. But his passing accuracy is 81%. 81, against Haaland's 67.7, against Osimhen's 65.6. And he's carrying the central scoring burden for a semi-finalist while doing it. That number tells you he isn't just showing up where attacks end, he's showing up where attacks are built. UEFA's own technical breakdown of Bayern's quarter-final against Real Madrid talked about their constant positional rotations and fluid movement to create passing lanes. Kane is the player that system was designed around because he can be both the striker and the connector, in the same move, sometimes in the same touch. In the 3-2 win at Dortmund, Kane was the orchestrator of Bayern's attack, not just the man who scored twice and went home. His average position that day was in the centre circle, behind Serge Gnabry, and they describe him explicitly as the player who picks up the ball,
Directs play and carries it forward. That's the bit people miss when they only look at the goal tally. In a huge away match against the major rival, Bayern's analysis wasn't that Kane stood in the box and waited for service. It was that he connected the attack, initiated moves, set teammates free with through balls, and still walked away with 2 goals. This is what separates him from everyone else in the bracket. Mbappe can devastate you with acceleration. Haaland can suffocate you in the box. Osimhen can overwhelm you with power and timing. Kane can hurt you in those moments too, but his game starts earlier than any of them. He drops into midfield, takes it with his back to goal, turns, switches play, threads a pass into a runner, and then arrives in the box late enough to finish the move he helped start. Bayern's scouting notes are blunt about it. When Kane drops, he either drags a centre-back with him or occupies the holding midfielder's space, and either way, that opens corridors for the wingers to run in behind. With Olise and Luis Diaz stretching the pitch out wide, Kane becomes the hinge, the player connecting Bayern's build-up to Bayern's goals. Which is why this season works as such a perfect case study. Olise leads the Bundesliga assist chart with 18. Diaz has 13 among Bayern players and 15 league goals himself. Bayern have scored in all 47 competitive matches of the season up to the title-clinching weekend. Yes, Kane is part of a machine, but he's not standing at the top of it waiting to be fed. He's one of the reasons it runs, and then he's still the most ruthless finisher at the end of it. So the scary part isn't that Harry Kane scores goals. Loads of elite strikers score goals. The scary part is that he's doing it at a level that puts him right in the Mbappe-Haaland bracket, and he's doing more in the earlier phases of play than almost anyone else in that company is even asked to do. 32 league goals, 51 in all competitions, 12 in the Champions League, a golden shoe already on the shelf, and every time Bayern sit down and look at what actually happened in their biggest matches this season, they keep arriving at the same conclusion. Kane isn't just finishing attacks, he's starting them.
He's what makes Kane genuinely different this season. Bayern don't use him like a fixed number 9, and when you understand that, the whole picture changes. Bayern are historically dominant right now, 109 Bundesliga goals in 30 matches, 3.63 per game. But the shape of how they do it explains why Kane's role looks nothing like a standard penalty box striker's job. They're not funneling everything through one central finisher, they're stretching teams wide, attacking from both flanks, and using Kane as the reference point that ties all of it together. To understand Bayern, you have to understand the relationships around him. Olise on the right creating, Diaz on the left running and dribbling, Musiala carrying and combining through the middle, Kimmich keeping the whole structure calm underneath. Kane sits between those layers rather than ahead of them. He can pin centre-backs when Bayern need a target, but more often he drops into the space in front of the defence.
Gives Bayern an extra passing option, and essentially turns a front 5 into a front 4 plus 1 connector. That's how they create overloads without losing their striker, because their striker is also the spare man helping them play through pressure. And that's exactly why the wingers benefit so much from him. When Kane drops, the centre-back faces a decision. Follow him or hold the line, step out and Bayern have a channel for Diaz or Olise to run into, stay put and Kane receives free between the lines and turns to play forward. Either way, Bayern win the moment. This is why he looks so unusual on film. Most elite strikers wait for the move to reach them. Kane gives the move its shape first, then shows up at the end of it. Drop, connect, release, arrive. That sequence is basically the blueprint of Bayern's attack this season. You can see it clearly across different types of games. Take the 5-1 win over Hoffenheim in February. The front line was functioning as a unit, not isolated pieces, but a rotating system. Kane scored twice, both penalties won by Diaz. Diaz then scored after a counter that Kane led. The fourth came from Olise, the fifth from Musiala. That's what this attack actually is. Not a striker getting served, but a front line constantly switching roles, and Kane is the one who makes that possible because he can be the scorer and the connector in the same 90 minutes. The two Stuttgart games are worth looking at together because they show two different versions of the exact same structure. In the 5-0 away win in December, Kane didn't even start. Bayern went with Jackson up front, Diaz left, Olise right, Guerreiro underneath. Kane came on after the hour mark and scored a hat-trick in 30 minutes. One from distance after Pavlovic won the ball, one from the spot after Olise's shot was handled, one from an Olise cross. And that tells you something important. Bayern had already done the work, stretched Stuttgart, moved them around, drained their energy through wide pressure and control. Kane walked into a game already tilted and still found three completely different ways to score. Long-range effort, penalty box composure, close-range movement. Classic journeyman cameo, except he's Harry Kane. The return against Stuttgart in April told another part of the story. Bayern won 4-2 to clinch the title. Musiala created the equaliser for Guerreiro. Diaz then assisted Jackson and Davies in a devastating spell before half-time, and Kane and Olise came on at the break. Kane scored within 7 minutes of coming on, reacting first after Goretzka's effort was saved. That's the point with Kane in this team. Bayern can build the match through wide creators and dribblers, but the moment the attack reaches the box, Kane still reads the phase like a pure striker. He's embedded in the structure without losing any of the finisher's instinct. Then comes Atalanta, where the argument moves into Europe and gets harder to wave away. On the 17th of March, Bayern beat them 4-1, and Kane scored twice to reach 50 Champions League goals, the first Englishman to get there. But even that milestone is more interesting in context. He's not chasing those goals from a simplified brief, he's hitting them while carrying the connective work of Bayern's entire attack. That's what makes it mean something. 50 Champions League goals is elite by any measure. It's even more striking when you consider the workload attached to getting there. And then there's Real Madrid, which removes the last easy excuse. On the 7th of April, Bayern won 2-1 at the Bernabeu. Diaz opened the scoring, Gnabry assisted. Kane added the second, Olise assisted. Same mechanism, same structure, just against the best club side on the planet in a Champions League quarter-final. Wide players stretch the game, the attack rotates, Kane finds the space, Kane finishes the move. This is where the system striker argument really falls apart, because system strikers tend to look convincing right up until the quality of the opposition rises. Kane produced the exact same performance against Real Madrid as he does against Hoffenheim.
And then you get to the numbers that almost don't make sense given what the role asks of him. Kane reached 100 Bundesliga goal involvements in just 78 appearances, beating Rowan Mackay's old record of 113 games. He scored his 500th career goal in February against Werder Bremen, 32 league goals this season, 12 in the Champions League, 51 in all competitions. These are totals you associate with a striker who spends his entire life camped in the penalty area waiting for the final action. Kane is hitting them while functioning as a connector, a release valve, and at times almost an attacking midfielder inside Bayern shape. The role says one thing, the output says another, and that's exactly what makes him so difficult to compare with anyone else in European football right now. So the point isn't just that Bayern score a lot, the point is that their entire attacking structure is built to move around Kane, and Kane is built to make that structure work. He drops and Bayern have an extra man in build-up, he links and the wingers get cleaner running lanes, he occupies defenders and the midfield can step higher. Then after doing all of that, he still ends up with the finish. That's why he looks different. It's not a purple catch, it's not Bayern being too good for the league, it's a tactical role that asks more of him than almost any other striker at this level is being asked, and somehow the numbers have stayed at the level of a pure goalscorer anyway.
The Ballon d'Or part of the conversation is where people lose the plot. They see the goals, they see the headlines, they see Kane finally picking up major honours at Bayern, and the instinct is to just sprint to the finish line. But slow down, because this is actually where it gets interesting. The mood around Kane right now isn't that he's already won the argument, it's that for the first time in a long time, you genuinely can't leave him out of it.
Wayne Rooney said recently it's strange that Kane has never received greater Ballon d'Or recognition. Emile Heskey made the same point from a different angle. Kane is in the discussion, but probably needs the Champions League and a big World Cup with England to turn that discussion into something decisive. That's the most honest reading of where he stands. Not hype, not a coronation, a real case that gets a lot stronger if the biggest prizes follow, which is why the rest of the field matters. Lamine Yamal is in this conversation for completely different reasons. With Yamal, people aren't just reacting to output, they're reacting to the feeling of watching someone bend big matches before he's even reached a normal football age. That kind of momentum carries serious weight in Ballon d'Or debates, because the award has never been purely about numbers, it's also about narrative. Which player defines the season emotionally as well as tactically? Mbappe works the same way, except from an even more established place. Critics will tell you something is still missing from his Ballon d'Or story, but the fact they keep coming back to that question tells you everything. He doesn't need to be introduced into the race, he starts inside it. Olise is the most revealing comparison, because he shows how fast a single season can reshape a conversation. A few months ago, putting Olise in this debate would have sounded premature. It doesn't anymore. Current Ballon d'Or power rankings have both Kane and Olise at the top end of the discussion, and even the voices urging caution about Olise, telling people not to get carried away, the caution itself is the tell. He's no longer being judged as a promising winger, he's being discussed as a player whose influence in a title-winning Champions League level side has become impossible to ignore. And that actually sharpens Kane's case rather than diluting it. If Bayern's season is being read through both Kane and Olise, then Kane doesn't get to win simply because Bayern are dominant. He has to stand above other elite performers inside his own team, not just against the biggest names in Europe. That's precisely why the Champions League and the World Cup matter more than another stack of league goals. The Champions League has always been football's stress test for this award, where a strong domestic case gets reclassified as a serious global one. The World Cup does the same thing, just on a much bigger emotional scale. FIFA has the 2026 tournament running from the 11th of June to the 19th of July, which means the international summer lands directly in the window that can completely reorder how people remember a season. A brilliant club campaign builds the platform, a defining World Cup can rewrite the hierarchy entirely. That applies to Kane with England, to Mbappe with France, and to Yamal if Spain go deep and he becomes one of the faces of the tournament. Which is why any honest take on the Ballon d'Or right now has to stay open. The race isn't settled because the loudest stage of the year hasn't started yet. So here's the balanced way to frame Kane at this moment. He's moved well beyond the old category, the one where people admired him quietly but never quite put him at the center of the world game. That's gone. The conversation around him now is genuinely serious. He's being talked about as someone whose season could become award-defining if the final trophies line up with the performances. But it's still conditional. That's the key word.
Yamal has youth and momentum. Mbappe has star gravity and the kind of reputation that always carries votes. Olise has the freshness of a breakout season at the very top level. Kane's argument is different from all of them. It's built on completeness, on consistency, and on the sense that he's finally put together a campaign so well-rounded that people have stopped debating whether he belongs in the room and started asking what happens if he wins one more major thing, which brings everything back to why he's so easy to underrate in the first place. Kane isn't the fastest forward in this conversation, he isn't the most explosive, he isn't the most physically overwhelming, and he definitely isn't the easiest to cut into a 30-second clip. Football culture tends to notice violence before subtlety, the burst, the sprint, the leap, the run that tears a defense open. Kane can do damage, but a lot of his best work happens somewhere quieter than that. It's in the pause before the pass, in the decision to drop instead of pin, in the touch that completely changes the angle of an attack, in the way he makes the game feel calmer for his team and more complicated for everyone else. That kind of dominance is less obvious. It isn't less important. So the realization isn't just that Kane is having a great season, it's that most people are still using the wrong template to judge him. They measure him like a conventional striker and miss half the performance. They look for the fastest runner, the most spectacular dribbler, the most explosive athlete, and Kane isn't built to win those comparisons, nor is he trying to. But once you shift the question from who is the most dramatic to who is the most complete, the whole discussion changes, and then Kane becomes very difficult to argue against, because there may be forwards who are faster, stronger, or more electric over 10 seconds, but in this current bracket, there's nobody, maybe nobody at all, who can do as many things at this level in the same role. That's why you don't always realize how good Harry Kane is, not because the evidence isn't there, because no other striker plays the game in quite the same shape. He doesn't fit the easy category, so people keep reaching for the wrong comparison. And by the time you've actually clocked what he's doing, the goals, the control, the link play, the leadership of the attack, the big moments, it's already added up into something much larger than a normal striker season. If this version of Kane adds the final layer of silverware to everything else, the conversation doesn't just get interesting, it changes very quickly.